Make sure that you know how to pull an enrollment list and a DC list prior to this April 3rd date so that we don't have any surprises come up. And that's all I have.
Cambria,
Yes.
you were a little hard to hear. You might want to get closer and try that a little again because it was really hard to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me right now?
It's still very muffled. And I know there was in the chat, somebody said they had a hard time hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Jen, is your microphone on?
Is it what?
It's
Sorry, let me shut it off. Yeah.
okay. Now, hopefully this is working. I'm so sorry. We are having some technical difficulties this morning. I'm not sure what's going on, but I will just start over. I just want to give everyone a reminder that CEP data will be pulled on April 3rd this year because April 1st is a Saturday. And if you are currently on CEP, you are required to complete this data pull. And if you are interested in participating in CEP, this data will determine if you are eligible to participate. An ISP of 40% is needed to qualify for CEP, and this 40% is based off of your direct certification, not your applications. Instructions on how to upload documentation into My Idaho CNP will be sent out soon, and all documentation will need to be submitted to the state agency for validation by June 30th. Prior to April 3rd, please make sure that you know how to pull an enrollment list and a DC list so there's no surprises. And I do see that we have one question. If we just pulled data on Monday and uploaded it, do we need to pull it again on April 3rd for CEP? Yes, you will need to. We need to have that snapshot on April 3rd. Okay, I'll pass it on to the next person.
Do you think mine?
No, you need to use this one.
Or do you think?
Next, we have up NSLP annual training dates.
This is Jen. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little muffled.
Is this better?
A little.
We're gonna go with it. Okay. So what we want to make sure that you watch for emails identifying when registration for the annual mandatory training is open in the learning portal so that you can register. And we want you to register early for your preferred location. So these are the dates of a full day NSLP annual mandatory training. They'll be held in person at these locations on these dates. And then I want to make sure to please note there will not be an annual training held in conjunction with ISMA conference this summer. Training is mandatory for the food service director, and we allow up to 2 people for each district. However, based on district size, we are planning to reach out to some specific districts and grant an exception for an additional staff member this year. So please watch for those communications as well. And then next is an RCCI in-person annual training. We are we're trying this new this year too, where we're going to throughout the state at these 3 locations have just some small trainings with RCCI's. And please watch for those emails as well. Next will be the NSLP renewal. That's for school year 23-24. Renewal opens on April 17th. So in preparation for that, we'd like you to start gathering and having the conversations about what will be the operating dates for the school year and the times of meal service. Know that adult minimum lunch prices must be $4.70 and minimum breakfast is $2.65. You can always go higher than that, but those are the established minimums for next year. The PLE tool has not been released yet. So we always suggest at least plan on a 10-cent increase as you think about prices. And later I will share that we did have a memo that came out with some flexibility. But we want you to also think about special provisions. So run that April 3rd data to see if you qualify for CEP, if that's something you're interested in doing. I also talk about provision 2 here next, but vended meal contracts, make sure that those are current. And you have a plan to get them signed in time. And then health inspection reports and requests. Just remember that those will be part of the renewal process as well. And do stay tuned. We do have instructions that will be coming. So said I'll talk about provision 2 next. Now, if you are currently in a provision 2 cycle, please watch for emails from Jack Stenham. He'll be sending emails both related to if you are currently conducting a base year, what you need to do to wrap that up, as well as if you're in your 4th year of a cycle, then if you are considering wanting to extend that, what you'll need to do. So if you've also given some thought to maybe wanting to start provision, again, we want you to call or email Jack Stenham to discuss details and make sure you have the conversations with administration too. And we can give you some insight on maybe what that conversation needs to be. But this is the time of year that you need to start thinking about if you're going to extend in the current cycle you're in, or if you want to start up a provision 2 base year. Okay, non-program food revenue tool. I just want to remind you, do not forget to complete your non-program food revenue tool or your alternate assessments so that you have a record on file of your pricing compliance. Each year you are obligated to know that that your food is priced correctly. So just a reminder of what non-program foods are. They're any food or beverage that are not part of a reimbursable meal. So a la carte items, if you're selling the entrees or sides or milk from your menu, but you're selling them separately a la carte, those are considered non-program foods. Also, if you have other items not included on the daily menu. Adult meals, second meals for students, catering, vending, any food that is purchased for other organizations, for fundraising purposes, for catering, vending, anything like that are all non-program foods because they are not part of our reimbursable meal program. So in Idaho, we do have a 1-week non-program food revenue tool. It's located in download forms. And this tool calculates the cost of all the menu types, breakfast, lunch, and then the grade levels, and compares it with the revenue of each of the menu for a period of 1 week. And so school food authorities are required to complete this tool annually. And the state agency recommends that you select it and analyze a week now so that you have this documentation on file for this school year, if it's coming to an end before we know it. And then we do review this during the administrative review. Now, if you only sell milk and adult meals, then you would be able to just complete the alternate assessment. So this one is located in download forms, and you can fill out the green boxes with what your pricing is. It will show you if you are in compliance or not. Now, this tool gets updated every year. So at renewal, it was switched to the next school year. So if for documentation of this year, you'll need to fill out this tool and have it on file before the new release. Also, just want to plug a reminder about Idaho sales tax. Reimbursable student meals are exempt from sales tax, but all non-program foods must include sales tax. And just the adult meal prices that I had quoted earlier, all sales tax has already been added into that. So USDA has not yet released the PLE tool for school year 23-24. So I mentioned before to plan on at least a 10-cent increase to help support your lunch requirements and your the pricing requirements until we get that tool to help you identify where you should be. But just remember that this year, the target was $3.31. So think about where your prices are currently compared to this school year's target of $3.31, and assume it's only going to be higher for next year. But as I mentioned before, USDA did release a memo that advises that school food authorities can elect to not increase their prices this coming year if they had a positive fund balance as of June 30th, 2022. So if there was a positive fund balance of June 30th, 2022, and you can provide us proof of that, then we will at renewal accept it at a station of that excess fund balance or that fund balance, so that we can approve you to not do a price increase if you elect to go that route. And again, meal prices for adult meals have already been set. And we want to remind you to talk to your business manager or your administration, because this may need to go to your board. Prices can be raised up to 5%, but anything over does require notification requirements in compliance with higher code. I next just want to mention, as summer operations are around the corner, if you are running the the summer food service program, you should have already completed your annual training with Mary Ann. So reach out if there's any kind of question of that being missed. But if you were thinking about doing an academic summer school only and would like to do NSLP during the summer school, please reach out to the NSLP team at the NSLP team at sde.idaho.gov email, just to let us know so we can help ensure that all requirements are met and you have the correct approval to proceed with that, so that you can get that point for reimbursement. And also, if you are interested in doing the single summer option, you need to know that right away as well. So please reach out to the NSLP team via email to let us know what your intentions are for summer operations. I think next I'm going to pass it on to TJ for USDA Foods.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm glad everyone could join us. We did want to just cover a couple of really quick basics on the USDA Foods, what's happening currently. Most of you are aware that the requisitions in WebSCM were due to be entered by March 13th. So anyone that had entered requisitions for USDA Foods that would be available for use in your school meals for school year 23-24, I just wanted to remind everyone what they can expect next. So currently the state distributing agency, that's myself, the USDA Foods team, we're working to consolidate the trucks. So as requisitions are entered by each and every school district, our obligation is to look at the amount of product that is necessary for the coming school year and make determinations about how we meet USDA's full truckload quantity requirements. So of course, it takes a little bit of moving and juxtaposing some of the requests. Sometimes we don't have enough requisitions to meet the full truckload, so we're out looking at other options to split truckloads with states, given the requirements that we have to meet with those. So I want everyone to be aware that you will be receiving WebSCM notifications if you've signed up for those. Those WebSCM notifications may contain multiple different communications. So if you see that products were canceled, you need to pay attention to that. There are reasons why products are canceled. Currently, there are multiple reasons why products are being canceled. USDA is having a hard time buying some of the seasonal product that we expect to have come in July, August, and September, which was paid for with your previous year's entitlement. So those cancellations are happening. We at the state level may be canceling requisitions if we can't find a split and unable because we have less than a quarter truckload or even less than a half truckload, we won't have the means, the financial means to pay for an entire truckload. So those products may be canceled as well. Additionally, you may see notifications where you may have planned to receive 100 cases of a particular product. You may see that you're going to receive a few more cases than that, or a few less cases, because we again are trying to manage getting those into full truckload quantities. So watch for those notifications, because all of this will impact what you had originally planned for receiving in school year 23-24. The other thing you may note is that you'll see changes in delivery dates. This again is because we try to be as flexible as possible when we set up dates in WebSCM, but once we see the number of requisitions, we oftentimes have to take 2 or 3 dates and consolidate them into one to ensure that we have a full truckload. Or it may be that we're changing a date because we found a state that's willing to split, but their needs are different than ours. So we try to collaborate with other states and make sure that everyone's getting their needs filled. And at the end of the day, it's about getting the product into the best of our ability. So please watch for your WebSCM notifications. And please, please, please do not send us individual emails about this thing happened to me and that thing happened to me and I need to know why, because we do not have the human capacity to answer individual emails right now. We are working many, many hours to just accomplish this task in a very shortened timeline. USDA is very unforgiving from the time they release the catalog so that we can release our catalog to you until these orders are due. It is a very squished time period. So please just sit tight, look at the information, and determine how it impacts you. The best thing that you can do for yourself is run your requisition status report. You've probably heard that 1,000 times just in the last few months. That is the key to the requisitions that you entered and where they are in the process. So please make yourself familiar with your own requisition status report. If you're unfamiliar with how to run that report by now, it's a little bit problematic, but we do have a WebSCM user guide on our webpage that shows you step-by-step how to run reports in WebSCM. So you're fluid on what is happening with your requisitions. Next slide, please. The other thing I wanted to remind everyone of is the DoD survey. Since you have already run your requisition or put your requisitions in, you should be running your entitlement summary report so that you know how much of your available estimated entitlement you actually spent and how much you may have left over. Please remember that for the DoD survey, regardless of whether or not you participate or plan to participate, maybe you have a negative entitlement balance already because you overspent a little bit, which we allow you to do. A response is required. The reason for that is these surveys, it is required by USDA that we get input from every recipient agency. So that's why you can open the survey and simply answer no, and that's the end of it if you do not have any entitlement to allocate to DoD. But today is the deadline on that response. So that's why I'm reminding everybody. Make sure you've run your report. You know what your ending available balance is. You can allocate anywhere from $150, which is the minimum amount for a DoD delivery, up to your ending available balance. Make sure you're looking at the right column on your entitlement bonus summary report. It's the available ending balance that we're interested in, and then we will have to validate that information. If you have a negative ending balance, you will not be able to initially allocate to DoD. But I say initial because we are still consolidating truckloads. USDA is still finding that they are having to cancel particular product. One that comes to mind is peaches. They're having a hard time buying peaches. So if you initially have a negative balance, that doesn't mean that in a month from now, you might have some entitlement returned to your account because of the cancellations that are occurring. So the USDA Foods team will typically make another opportunity available sometime in December for anyone that has had entitlement returned back to their account to be able to allocate to DoD. So please know that these allocations are for school year 23-24. The funding is available July 1, and watch for a second chance allocation sometime in December if you are unable to currently allocate to DoD. And that should end it for me.
Awesome. I will take it from TJ. Jamie Gibson here. I wanted to mention fresh fruit and vegetable a little bit. Like Pamela had mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I will be leaving Idaho SDE at the end of month. So super bittersweet, but I do want to get as much done as we can, which includes making the fresh fruit and vegetable application for school year 23-24 available to you guys to apply for. So go ahead, next slide, Pamela. So school year 23-24 fresh fruit and vegetable application will open before the end of the month. I'm hopeful to get it live by the end of the week. To be eligible for the fresh fruit and vegetable program, schools must meet the following criteria: be an elementary school, operate an SLP, and the big one here, more than 50% of students qualify for free and reduced price meals. And lastly, submit a complete application. So the application is a two-step process. So don't forget part 2, the certification of support. That just lets us know that your school knows that they'll be operating the program and no one's left in the dark. And lastly, keep an eye out for an email. A large broadcast email will go out announcing the application is open, but if you might have a site that is eligible, you'll get an email specifically to you saying that the fresh fruit and vegetable application is open and you might qualify. So maybe think about applying. And again, plan ahead. That's like I said, a two-step process, and that part 2 does need signatures from people at sites. So don't forget to get those signatures before you leave for summer break. And if you do have any questions, reach out to Sharon. She's going to be the funnel sending questions where they need to go after I leave. So thank you. That's all I had.
Team, there's a question in the chat. Will there still be an SFSP DoD allocation? If so, when will those amounts be allocated?
Thank you, Kristen, for that question. We do have a very small, and I mean very, very small amount of funding for SFSP DoD allocation. It's important to note the reason for that is because keep in mind that SFSP DoD allocations are based on meals that were served true to participation in the SFSP program, and our funding stream always comes delayed a year after operations. So many schools opted to continue participation through the last of the COVID era through SSO operations. So any meals served under SSO would have received the entitlement available that would go to their NSLP entitlement allocation. A lot of schools asked me, how come my NSLP entitlement is so much this year? It's because of SSO. Well, the same is true for SFSP. There was a reduction of meal service through true SFSP. And keep in mind that the entitlement value is significantly different under NSLP, SSO, it was 43 cents per meal. Under SFSP operations, it's only 1.5 cents per meal. So it's really, really minimal. Our entire state allocation is about a third of what it would be in any typical year before COVID. So the decisions that have to be made by the state agency as a result of that is we need to be able to look at allocating that minimal amount where it can be effectively utilized, because DoD is a use it or lose it. So we have to be able to allocate in portions of 150 or more dollars so that minimum can be met. So it's going to be difficult. There will be limited numbers of SFSP sponsors that actually have an allocation this year. And you will be receiving notification about that. The amounts, when they're allocated, you'll get notified through email, and they will be loaded. They're typically available for use sometime in May. It depends on USDA. We have to respond to them that we want to use it all in DoD, and then they have to approve the initial allocations in favors. So it's kind of a little bit of a timeline, sometimes constrained by USDA, but you should have those allocations. If you're getting it, you'll have notification available sometime in May. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, TJ. Well, that brings us to the end of our slides. Here's our contact information. If you need anything, please reach out. And of course, our non-discrimination statement. We'll give you back a half hour of your day, and see you next month. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great spring break. Thanks. Thanks. I just wanted to put this agenda up on the bottom because I didn't hit record in the very beginning. And so this is our agenda for today's webinar, March 22nd, 2023. Thanks.